All right, it is 7 o'clock, everyone, and so we'll begin at this point. Welcome to this forum for the Lathrup Village City Council election. Today is October 9th, 2025. This forum features candidates who filed for the November general election. 4 candidates are running for City Council. You may vote for up to 3, and they are running for a 4-year term. The sponsor of this forum is the League of Women Voters, Oakland area. My name is Neil Zeckman. I'm not a resident of this city. Tonight, you will hear from the 4 candidates who have filed for the Lathrup Village City Council. As I said, there are 4 candidates for a 4-year term, and you may vote for up to 3. The candidates are, in alphabetical order, Jalen C. Jennings, Bruce Cantor, Carlissa Mathis, who is a write-in candidate, and John Suzanis. The League of Women Voters is a trusted national nonpartisan political organization. Our members do the hands-on work to safeguard democracy. While we never endorse a candidate, we are directly involved in shaping the important issues that keep our community strong. As a member of the League of Women Voters, I have the opportunity to contribute in a leadership role, such as this one, that has great impact on local, state, and even national issues. If you're interested in learning about how you can make a similar impact, I encourage you to pick up some of the League of Women Voters information available here tonight, or visit our website at lwvoa.org. The League of Women Voters do not endorse any candidate or political party, but the views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates only, and we, the sponsors, take no responsibility. The format for this forum has been established by the League of Women Voters. As we begin the forum, we ask our audience to please turn off your cell phones. The recording of this forum is copyrighted by the League of Women Voters 2025, and personal recordings or pictures are not allowed. No part of this forum can be shown by itself. This forum can only be shown in its entirety. Candidates will answer questions with their views only and not interrupt another candidate. Questions are asked to all the candidates and do not single out any one candidate. All questions are submitted by the audience and screened for duplication and appropriateness by the screeners, who are Belinda Fries and Maxine Monshine. Our pages are circulating in the audience with paper and pencils for you to write down your questions, and please turn in your questions to the pages. Our pages are Jerry Rischler, Christine Allen, and Maureen Christensen. And our timer is Diana Piles. The format for our forum is as follows. All candidates are given 1 minute for opening statements in alphabetical order. Candidates have 1 minute to answer each question in rotation unless the time is extended by the moderator. All candidates will be allowed equal time to answer the questions. Closing statements will be 1 minute in reverse order. And once again, as we begin the forum, we ask our audience to please turn off your cell phones and please remain silent and hold your applause until the end of the forum. Thank you. We begin now with the opening statements, 1-minute statements from each of our candidates. We'll begin with Mr. Jennings.
Thank you. Good evening, fellow residents, everyone who is in the crowd. I would like to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude for Women League of Voters for organizing this event and providing us with this platform to share. Over the past 4 years, I have been deeply honored to serve the residents of Lathrup Village and dedicated myself to providing 5-star representation on your behalf throughout my term. I have focused on strengthening our city through collaboration, accountability, and commitment to progress. First, I have worked diligently to build and maintain strong relationships with our local business community, fostering meaningful partnerships between the city and business owners to support economic growth and community engagement. Second, upon being appointed as the Southfield, the school board liaison, Southfield Public Schools school board liaison, I made a priority to repair and strengthen that relationship. Dang, that was 1 minute? Wow, okay. Gotta work on this. Wow.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jennings. We'll move on now to Mr. Cantor.
Okay. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this session and the other candidates for participating. If you don't know me, I'm Bruce Cantor, and having grown up in our community and owned a home here for 36 years, I have an in-depth understanding of our city's strengths and weaknesses. I've been on council for the last 8 years, serving as the mayor pro tem, and in addition, I've also served as a board member on the Planning Commission, the Election Commission, the DDA, and chaired multiple committees. My biggest accomplishment to date has been leading the Infrastructure Committee, where I was responsible for developing the first major residential road project since 1969. We repaved 8.3 miles, and that was a mile more than originally intended because we were so under budget. I also orchestrated dramatic improvements to our 100-year-old water and sewer system to ensure you have clean water, don't have basement backups, and that we can put out fires. In my 8 years on council, I've delivered on every single one of my campaign promises, and I'm looking forward to continuing to build on these achievements and making Lathrup a community we can all be proud of.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor. Ms. Mathis.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carlisa Mathis, and I'm honored to be running for Lathrup City Council. And I'm running because I care deeply about our community. I've lived here over 35 years at this point, and I chose to live here because of our strong neighborhoods and our welcoming spirit and the pride that everyone takes in Lathrup Village. I've heard your concerns as I've been going door to door, and I've heard about transparency and decision-making, about how our tax dollars are being spent, and about our roads and our infrastructure, and about making sure that residents have a voice with making decisions in Lathrup Village. My priorities are simple: fiscal responsibility, transparency, and community involvement. And I want to work to grow, that we will grow together and support in the foundation of Lathrup Village.
Thank you, Ms. Mathis. Mr. Suzanis.
Hi, I'm John Suzanis. I moved to this community about 22 years ago. My wife and I were attracted to the houses and the tree-lined streets, but we stayed for the amount of time that we did because we really fell in love with the community here. And over the past few years, we've seen that the community has started to have some rifts over city business, over major issues. It's my belief that those rifts can be repaired, that community can exist with differences, but in order for that to happen, people have to feel heard. They have to feel that government is acting in a way that they understand, and they have to believe that there's a fair playing field. If I'm elected, that'll be my focus, to make sure that we're communicating well with the community and that the community feels like they're being heard.
Thank you, Mr. Suzanis. We'll now begin the question portion of the forum, beginning with Mr. Jennings, and remember that these are 1-minute answers. What's one measurable outcome you want to achieve by the end of your term if elected? How will the residents know you've done it?
Sure. One measurable outcome I would love to see, which I've already started working on, is making sure that the businesses that are coming into the city, that we have some kind of regulation and looking to the future to regulate those businesses and make sure we're not getting some of the same businesses that we see all the time, and making sure that those businesses are friendly for everyone, diverse, and then I will make sure that the residents are aware through our city website and through our city app, and always making updates during our city council meetings, trying to stay compliant. So that is my goal, always.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Mr. Cantor.
My goal would also be similar to Jalen's in terms of improving the business community. I think there's a lot that we've done at least over the last 8 years since I've been on council, but I think there's a lot more that we can do. Ways that we can improve the business community is, first of all, work with the redevelopment-ready communities, reestablish our certification, as well as the MEDC, to bring and attract quality businesses to the city. I think we can improve the business corridor by continuing to apply code enforcement. We've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. We have a full-time code enforcer. who has actually been a little bit more aggressive than other code enforcers in terms of applying some of the codes. I think we can also change a lot of the ordinances to update them in line with the times. So, for example, one of the things that I just recently did was opened up our sign ordinance to try to address the proliferation of all of these really bright LED signs that the neighbors are complaining are shining into the neighborhoods. So I think code enforcement, oh, I got to stop.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor. Ms. Mathis.
Yes, I also the business, because I see the fact that over the years that we have increased and we have new actual businesses within the Southfield corridor, which is really great. So we want to continue to expand on that so that we are having businesses that are thriving within our community. Also looking at the fact of our residents and what they want to have, so that you do not have to drive to other communities sometimes to actually go get something that we don't really have in our community. So that's really just looking at the contracts that are coming forth for us, for any kind of business that wants to come into our community, but also maintaining our historical within our community with our character that we have. So it's up to that balance that I've actually heard from residents that we want to have. So I would definitely look at businesses growing, thriving in our community, and revenue coming in so that we can have more funding.
Thank you, Ms. Mathis. And Mr. Suzanis.
Sure. If I had to pick one thing that I'd like to have accomplished during the term, it would be that the master plan and the Parks and Rec plan, the comprehensive plan, be updated in a way that truly involves residents and that gets their input from the beginning and all the way through the process. I think you could measure whether or not I was successful in what I want to have happen if at the end of that term, at the end of that process, you felt like you understood the direction that the city was going in, that you felt good about how that decision was made, and that you felt that the plan showed direction and gave guidance to how we make decisions about the community in the future. I think sometimes because of all the pressures we've had, it feels like government is making decisions ad hoc on the run, trying to, put out the next fire. And I think this plan gives us a chance to put a little structure around that and to come together and have a shared vision.
Thank you, Mr. Suzanis. We'll begin the next question with Mr. Cantor. What role, what role do you feel City Council should or could play in bridging and healing divisions in the community?
Well, I'm going to start out by saying that I reject the notion that there's a division in the community. I think that's highly overstated. In the past year, I've been to almost every house twice, and what I can say is that the neighborhoods love this community and they love being in Lathrup. That said, what I can say is that we do have a microcosm of about 50 residents that are highly caring, highly engaged, and very vocal. Half of them like the direction the city's going in, half of them don't. And these groups aggressively clash with each other over the comfort and anonymity of social media. And so I think what we need to do is get them off of social media, get them into a safe space where live face-to-face discussions are encouraged, and disagreement, respectful disagreement can occur. So how do we do this? I think we have more town halls. We conduct issue-based focus groups and brainstorming sessions. We administer public comments and meeting rules strictly and equitably. And I think we just hold more diverse, fun events to get people together so that they realize that they're neighbors, not enemies.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor. Ms. Mathis.
Yes, I believe that a majority of Lathrup Village residents really are connected in a sense that we see when we have events, how many actually turn out and they really enjoy being, like living and being in Lathrup Village and getting to know each other. I would say that we need to focus more on having certain activities, though, however, that would include all different ranges, even with your families, more with the kids' involvement. We have a few, that's of course that we have now, but to increase that and start getting ideas from our residents. What would you like to have exactly within our community? We can get together, block parties, something that maybe was done a long time ago, hasn't been done, want to bring it back. So that's something that we want to look towards, really, so we can just community engagement, more community engagement through social media, newsletters, okay, and such.
Thank you, Ms. Mathis. Mr. Suzanis.
Well, I think communication is at the heart of this matter. I think, though, I reject the notion that there isn't a rift, but I think that acknowledging it is important. And I think that one of the things that City Council can do is make sure that when they act, that it's well publicized, that it's well communicated. The old ways of getting the word out aren't sufficient. I have seen most of the people here, not all, but most of them at most of the meetings. And what we need to do is grow this crowd so that all the City Council meetings have to be held in this room, not upstairs. Or, you know, if Bruce has a Headley override proposal thing, that it's full. I think that process has been really good. It's been a learning thing for the city to learn how to reach out to people in bigger numbers. And I'd like to see that continue throughout on many issues, not just one.
Thank you, Mr. Suzanis. And finally, Mr. Jennings.
Yes. Yeah, it is unfortunate that we even have to say that there's maybe a divide, maybe not. But for me, I like to look towards the future. And a few of the things that I've done as a council member and I plan to continue to do is host our Unity in the Community event. And that's been an annual event. I didn't get to do it last year, just very busy. But also I started a great partnership with Michigan First Credit Union, and they started the Festival of Lights event, which allows everyone to come and just have a great time. They put a great investment in it to make sure that Southfield and Lathrup Village residents and Southfield residents feel welcomed. So those are the things that I've been doing, and also I've made sure that the website, I was intricate in that creation of the website and also the app. That was something that I had to take on as a council member, so that's my answer.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. We'll begin the next question with Ms. Mathis. Please state your position on the proposal with respect to the Headley override and explain the rationale for your position.
Yes. As I was speaking earlier about transparency, it's very important that we would know exactly why we needed to have the Headley override, and the town hall meetings really explained that. My position is that we are at a point where it's dire. This is going to affect our infrastructure. It's going to affect our policing, staffing here at the city council, within the city itself, at City Hall. So that's areas that we want to make sure that we keep, especially with our police department. We're talking about garbage leaf pickup. Those are things that are going to be affected. So in my regards, personally, everyone has to make their own decision and look at the facts and where we're heading so that we do not go any further down a hole that we do not want to go. We want to maintain Lathrup Village as is and better.
Thank you, Ms. Mathis. Mr. Suzanis.
Yeah, so I went to one of the city town halls and listened to the case, and there are a lot of good points there. The Headley amendment is problematic for cities. But I've also read some of the countervailing data and arguments, and I find them compelling as well. I think it's important to note that this matter will be settled by the voters before we get elected or not elected. And with that in mind, what I do think about the Headley override proposal is it underscores that whatever amount of resources we have, it's incredibly important that we spend them wisely and that we spend them in alignment with the community's priorities. I don't know that we fully understand the community's priorities as a whole, as a group, and that's why I'm so excited to have the master plan process start, and I hope that residents play a really big role in that.
Thank you, Mr. Suzanis. Mr. Jennings.
Yes, so council did inform us that we should not necessarily say if we are for or against this matter, since we are seated council members. But what I would love to say is that the Headley The Headley community forums have been amazing. I've attended one. Also, I would say that I believe you can go to City Hall and ask about your specific parcel and see the estimate of what it will look like, so you could make your own educated guess or decision on what you would like to vote for.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. And Mr. Cantor.
Yeah, I think most people can pretty easily figure out where I stand on Headley. However, as Jalen indicated, the city attorney did advise us not to answer this question specifically because as council members, we can't advocate for a position on ballot initiatives. But that said, what I can say is that the city does have a huge revenue problem due to a variety of reasons, but the biggest reason is that Headley annually lowers our millage rate that we can assess to our residents. We're supposed to be assessing 20 mills, we're only assessing 17. There's only two ways to counteract that. One is to build more buildings, which we can't do. We don't have space for it. The other is to do a Headley override. If it fails, we'll see big cuts to our existing services. If it passes, we'll maintain our existing services, and we'll have some extra funds to invest back into the community. But I think Headley is really a great example of how I'm able to put the community first and make the hard decisions on behalf of residents, despite what any personal cost it might have for me. I mean, what kind of politician would allow themselves to be associated with a Headley override in an election season?
Thank you, Mr. Cantor. The next question will begin with Mr. Suzanis, and it's a related question. What are your budget priorities if the Headley amendment doesn't pass?
Well, I think that's a good question. Obviously, we need to keep as many services going as we can. I think there's some question about what the effect will be. And so I guess if I had to pick what my priorities would be, they'd be obviously fire and police, making sure that we're keeping that going. But I think what I would try to do is find a balance between the various things that make this community great. I think we can't afford to just turn our backs on Parks and Rec just because we don't have enough money. I think we can't afford to just turn our backs on keeping historical character of the city. I think we have to really look for balance, even if that means, pulling back a little bit on things that we take for granted in order to make sure that the breadth of what we're supporting is still there.
Thank you, Mr. Suzanis. Mr. Jennings.
I apologize. Could you repeat the question?
Sure. What are your budget priorities if the Headley amendment does not pass?
Gotcha. I would always say police and fire. We need to keep our community safe. I would say putting our staff, making sure our staff feels comfortable because we rely on them pretty heavily. I know I do. So making sure that the staff feels secure in that possible outcome. So those would be my priorities. I know there will be a lot of things that people would miss if we had to make some hard, tough decisions. But as always, council, we make the hard decisions and we get kicked for it. But you guys asked us to represent you, and so we're making that hard sacrifice.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Mr. Cantor.
Yeah, so if it fails, we're still going to have to focus on public safety, financial stability, and neighborhood quality. But the issue we're going to have is we're going to have to find $600,000 somewhere. Unfortunately, we've reached the end of the line in our significant savings opportunities because in the past decade or so, we've outsourced just about everything that's significant in terms of cost. The DPW, fire protection services, lockup, sewer tank operations, planning, dispatch services, animal control, engineering, early voting, the building department. We've discontinued the pension program. We've shifted costs to the DDA. And council always looks for the savings that we can muster, but we can't pull enough to reach, that $600,000 level. So we're going to have to make some cuts if it fails. We'll attempt to minimize disruption as much as possible, but that can include things like reducing police force or outsourcing it, eliminating yard bag pickup, leaf pickup, chipping services, ending the contract with the Southfield Public Library, no longer going after grants and reductions in staff, and we don't want to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor. And finally, Ms. Mathis.
I would look, of course, prioritizing with the public, the police department, fire. We do not want to take for granted our public safety at all. looking at other areas I went to the town hall, of course, like many of you have, and to hear exactly what's been discussed on what we will actually lose, it's going to be a tough decision. A lot of people can't make, everyone's going to be happy, of course, with certain cuts that would have to be made, but yet we would try to, of course, keep a balance. It's very important to keep a balance on what definitely maybe can be cut and what cannot. Again, not an easy decision, but my priority, again, would be for our public safety and fire. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Mathis. We'll begin the next question with Mr. Jennings. What have you done or what would you do to improve the business district DDA area?
Let's see. I guess I would go back to one of my points that I made earlier, which is with Michigan First Credit Union. I received some complaints from residents that the Christmas lights were just a pollution, and so I reached out to Michigan First to ask them, could we make it more of a community event? Even though I know you're going to turn the Christmas lights on, can we at least make an impact with the community? Also, I would say just making sure that I'm continuously meeting with the business owners, attending their ribbon cuttings, and making those initial connections, and making sure they are in contact with me. If they have questions, I can always direct them to the staff to answer those questions. But just continuing to build a strong relationship with them, and working with other parties, such as, I'm just going to stop, but yeah, there we go. That's my question. That's my answer.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Mr. Cantor.
Yeah, in the last 8 years, I've done a lot for the business corridor. First of all, the paving project that happened last year was something that Cheryl and Mitchell and I started with the Road Commission back when I was doing infrastructure. I've improved code enforcement. One of the first things I did when I got on council is I quadrupled code enforcement for half the cost. And so we've done a lot of enforcement on the business district. Ordinance changes, I mentioned a little bit earlier, I've been involved with a lot of ordinance changes to improve the business district, like the LED lights that I just mentioned. The sidewalk program that I brought in improved all the sidewalks, so the sidewalks are safe and trip-free on both sides of, or on all sides of the business district. I've been promoting sign grants and the facade grants that the DDA offer to improve the look and feel of the businesses. I've helped bring new businesses to the city on my 6 years on the Planning Commission, and helped keep Panera here as we worked with them to update our ordinance. And then I've also worked to slow down the traffic. I initiated a 3-year, can't talk anymore, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor. Ms. Mathis.
Yes. Currently with the DDA, they're doing a great job with improvements and want to continue to do the same. So just building that relationship, working together with the DDA, because I believe there's a great relationship currently, and want to continue to maintain that. Looking at other areas that we can include with our businesses, which is making them feel as though, again, inclusion with us as a community together, participating, having more maybe events that include the businesses. So I was thinking even about Halloween is coming up at this point in time, and having the kids, and you can have something where they can just go to business. So that's something to even look at in other areas. So just continuing to with our relationship with DDA.
Thank you, Ms. Mathis. And Mr. Suzanis.
Yeah, I'd like to, first of all, really focus on code enforcement and try to get, as close to 100% compliance with our ordinances and our codes as possible. It feels very ad hoc when you drive down to see what is enforced and what isn't. And I think, there's a cost there, but I think it's worth it. I also would like to see a little bit more consistency in the way that we consider variances. I feel like they're considered in piecemeal, one at a time, and I'd like to see more consistency across the decision-making process. I think things, again, if I go back to the master plan, if the city can start to decide what they really want that corridor to look like, the next step would be to be to make sure that we're actually doing what we say we want to do, and we're already falling short on that measure. So that's a place where I'd like to see more effort put.
Thank you, Mr. Suzanis. And Mr. Jennings.
I believe I answered the question, but if you want me to say more, because I did.
I'm sorry, I was confused.
Okay.
We'll begin the next question.
I missed a few things. So.
We'll begin the next question with Mr. Cantor. Who has endorsed your campaign?
So Mayor Garrett, sitting here, has endorsed my campaign. I don't have my flyer with me, but I could read the nice comment that she made on my flyer. I've also was contacted by Jeremy Moss, our state senator, who has also endorsed my campaign. And then our state representative, Jason Hoskins, has also endorsed my campaign.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor. Ms. Mathis.
Currently, as far as endorsement, I have not received an endorsement as of yet, except for our residents, which I have. There's a lot of support, and that's been really great.
Thank you, Ms. Mathis. Mr. Suzanis.
Yeah, I didn't actively seek any outside endorsements.
Thank you. And Mr. Jennings.
Sure. So I can say Mayor Garrett, thankfully, Ashanti Bland, school board president, Jeremy Hoskins, Yolanda Smith-Charles. There's a few more, but just going to stop there.
Thank you. We'll begin the next question with Ms. Mathis. Do you support the Lathrup Village Music Festival? Why or why not?
Yes, I definitely support. I went to the one this past and had a great time. I look forward to next year's event as well. I believe that it's also drawing a lot of more attention as well because some of my friends who do not live in Lathrup Village, I had one who went with me, and now I have a few more that said, okay, I want to go next year. So I believe it's going to really grow and become larger than what it is, and that's really great for our community as well. So I definitely support, event.
Thank you, Ms. Mathis. Mr. Suzanis.
Yeah, I support any and all community events, especially those that take place at the municipal park, and I think things like that bring us together. I really like the Wednesday night music series. I miss some of the events that we don't do anymore, like the Fall Festival. I think that was a really great thing, especially for families. I think there's others like that that have sort of fallen to the wayside, and I'd like to find ways to bring those things back. But I think the Music Festival certainly shows us an example of how people can come together and put something really big together. So.
Thank you, Mr. Suzanis. Mr. Jennings.
Sure. So yes, I enjoy the Lathrup Village Music Festival. It's always a great opportunity to see a lot of residents, also see a lot of surrounding city residents. I think it also boosts our economy. We've also seen this year the Lathrup Village Music Festival was able to provide a donation to Parks and Recs to make sure that they have the things that they need. Of course, we could probably give them $1 million if we could, but their donation was, just a blessing to Parks and Recs. So I'm all for the Lathrup Village Music Festival. It also puts us on par with Southfield in the way the attendance. Usually we're at our events, we see low attendance, but that really has grown, and we've seen a large amount of attendance. So, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Finally, Mr. Cantor.
Yeah, how can you not support it? It's an amazing event. I've worked almost all day at all three of the years that we've had it. In fact, I actually specifically went out and raised $15,000 for the event over the last 2 years in terms of getting donations. It brings an inordinate amount of attention to our city. It fosters community. I mean, there's really nothing bad you can say about the music festival. The bar tips go to, as Jalen said, go to the Parks and Rec, and I think that was probably because I was working the bar. We got so many tips, pouring heavy drinks. But there's just no downside to it, and I'm just gonna acknowledge Lauren Barris, who runs it. She's going to give me a dirty look, but it was an amazing thing she's done for our community. So,
Thank you, Mr. Cantor. And we will now begin the next question with Mr. Suzanis. It seems like we have a spending problem, yet council wants more money. Why can't we live within our means?
Well, I think that's the subject for debate a little bit. I think the reason it's so clearly up for debate is that there's a sense of a lack of transparency. I think that has to do with communicating. Again, I've read a lot of the, we have a spending problem, we have a revenue problem. I think both sides have a lot of data to support what they're saying. I don't know that either side actually negates the other. I think we can have a revenue problem and have a spending problem. I think one of the things I'm a little concerned about is that when city is asked whether they have a spending problem or have made mistakes in the past, it's a fairly defensive response. And I'd like to see the engagement on those kinds of questions be much more open to criticism, open to learning from the past. There are examples where we've made some changes that are in line with those criticisms, but they haven't actually acknowledged those criticisms.
Thank you, Mr. Suzanis. Mr. Jennings.
Sure. So I believe we have tried to live within our means, but it's gotten to a point where, although we've tried, we can't necessarily live within those means anymore. As time goes on, there are things that cities need and also are required to have to stay in good standing with the county and the state. So I know it may look like it, but I think City Council has always made a great effort to make sure we live within our means. Sometimes we might have to cut things and make sacrifices. So I think I can acknowledge, if people feel that way, that's fine. But I think we have done a great job to try to live within our means, even though it's buckling. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Mr. Cantor.
Yeah, I think there's always room for savings, but not to the extent that we need because of the shortfall in revenue due to things like reductions in state shared revenue, Prop A, the market crash, Headley. It would take me about an hour to explain all those things. But I will reject the comment that we have that there's data showing that we have an expense problem. I've seen the data that people quote, and it's highly flawed. So, for example, you see an expense curve that goes like this, and then starting in about 2021, it spikes. And so the conclusion is, oh my God, we've got an expense problem. What happened starting in 2021? We started infrastructure projects. We spent $1.23 million on sidewalks. All of that money gets reimbursed, so it's a net zero as far as an expense goes. Same thing on the revenue side. You see, I'm not going to be able to explain this in 15 seconds, so I'll stop there.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor. Ms. Mathis.
Yes, that goes back to transparency as well, because I believe that if we actually start having more meetings with the residents regarding any type of budgets, there's been any spend with the budget spending, those questions that residents have, if we were to get together and we were to actually meet about that, then we can actually, as city council, can answer those questions before they maybe perhaps get out of hand and thinking that there's money being spent where it should not be spent. So that's just getting together, tough questions be asked, and then having that actual data there for you to see and know that this is where it's being spent. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Mathis. We'll begin the next question with Mr. Jennings. Dealing with transparency, why aren't study sessions recorded? Why aren't there mics so that those residents who attend can hear?
Good question. So from my understanding, originally study sessions weren't recorded, and it allowed people to have that time to be more free and, maybe mess up on a word, and not feel, like you're just the dumbest person on earth. So I think that might play a part in it. And also, I believe we did have it once upon a time, but it's quite costly. And so that was a sacrifice that we decided to make as a city council to cut that. I've seen some issues that we've been having recently, so I think it's possibly coming back. I don't know where we're going to get the money from necessarily, but we're going to try to make it come back for some peace for the residents who are at those study sessions, so we don't have to run into the issues we've been running into.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Mr. Cantor.
Yeah, as Jalen said, study sessions were never recorded until COVID, when we started putting them out on Zoom, and we tried to keep that going for a while. As Jalen said, it was very expensive, and as we just talked about with the last question, we're shy on revenue, so that was one of the things that we felt we could cut. It still doesn't violate the Open Meetings Act. The meetings are still public, and people can still attend. When we were recording them, they were being recorded in the council chambers, where we're all sitting in a line, which really wasn't conducive to having a conversation, which is exactly what the study sessions are designed to do, is to roll up your sleeves and have conversations where you're free to, they say it takes 12 bad ideas to come up with one good idea, but then somebody says a bad idea, and it's all of a sudden, Jennings said this, or Cantor said this, so it really wasn't conducive to having a good conversation. But as he said, we are looking at ways to bring it back, because the strife that's going on is just not worth it. So,
Thank you, Mr. Cantor. Ms. Mathis.
I was not on, of course, the city council, but I had read in the finance review that was for the Headley override, it indicated it was expensive to actually have done, as everyone has stated. So that's something that I found out about. So it would be great, of course, if we can go back to that. That'd be wonderful. But again, of course, we can attend the study sessions ourselves.
Thank you, Ms. Mathis. And finally, Mr. Suzanis.
Sure, I think we have to acknowledge that we live in a world where people expect to be able to see things in video, online. They don't come to every single thing that they do in person, and I think it's a relatively easy thing to do. We talk about transparency. Here's a way to share more of what city government's doing. I'll also say on the expense side that I know for a fact that you can do it for free with a volunteer. And if that volunteer would be allowed to film it, then you wouldn't have to pay a thing.
Thank you, Mr. Suzanis. We'll start the next question with Mr. Cantor. It's a related question. What do you mean by transparency regarding communication within Lathrup Village?
Well, it means a lot of things. I can say during my time on council, I think we've dramatically increased transparency through things like the weekly e-newsletter that we developed and have been doing every Friday. We've overhauled the city website. We do push notifications to people's phones. We've added a C-click fix to report issues. Personally, in terms of transparency, I make myself available. I go door to door almost every other week. I have regular office hours. I've done over 40 town halls, many in people's homes. I'm a constant presence at all of the city events and meetings, and everyone in this room, everyone in the city has my phone number and my email because it's on all my materials. But there's always things you can do to improve. So we can create and adopt a communication plan, which we've been working on. We can video record more meetings. We can better and more consistently adhere to meeting rules and public comment formats. We can post meeting agendas on various platforms ahead of meetings. One thing that we've talked about in the past is establishing block captains so that we can distribute information to individuals who can then bring it out to their neighbors. We can continue to, stop. I thought I missed the other one. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor. Ms. Mathis.
Yes, over the years, I have seen a great improvement with transparency within getting information out from, of course, the city council and what's happening within the city hall itself. And I would say there should be, of course, improvements can be made with that. If elected, of course, we should have something where you can actually log in if you have any kind of complaints of something that's going on or something that you would like to have I guess just speak on. And then we can log it, I can follow up with it, bring it back to the city council. So when we say transparency, it's whatever improvements we can make to whatever we have already established, and we can add to that so we can make sure that every voice is heard.
Thank you, Ms. Mathis. Mr. Suzanis.
Yeah, I think transparency is difficult. I think that it takes a lot of effort. I think, as I said earlier, the city is learning. I think on an issue that's very dear to the council, they really figured out how to get out there and spread the word on something, and that's the Headley override, and why they think, it's necessary. I think we have some negative examples. I think that the emergence of the school development plan when it came out, not more recently, but when it came out, was something of a surprise to many people. I also think there's other aspects of the government besides just city council, the workings of the committees, the interactions with the DDA, things that could be better communicated and better understood. But it takes a lot of work, and I think that's something that we should be working on as a council and as a community.
Thank you, Mr. Suzanis. Mr. Jennings.
Yeah, so transparency, I think a lot of people view transparency in different ways, but I know what we've done so far, I think we've made great headway by making sure we've updated our app. We've got a new vendor for the app. They provide us with an app. A vendor for the website, and they provide us with a push notifications app that most of you guys should actually download right now. Also, we've been working on trying to figure out how to get a CRM, different things to make sure that residents are aware as much as possible. But also when you take into effect that we have city cuts, some things we can't always do. But I think we've been making, a strong effort to make sure that residents know what's going on. Could we do better? Always, and you can even look on my track record during city council meetings. I'm always asking, will this be posted on the e-newsletter? So,
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. We face failing infrastructure, particularly drainage. Past projects have not been well completed and are failing. How will you address failing infrastructure and ensure contractors perform as expected?
Well, I think the world is full of incidents of contractors not delivering on results in cities, especially public projects. I think you have to have measurable outcomes, and you have to have it written into the contract at the beginning. You have to, have penalties if they're not on time. You have to have penalties if they don't succeed in whatever the goal was. If you look at and I know we're going to have a little tough about this, but the water pressure, the water flow for putting out fires in this community is under question. We've done some projects that were supposed to address that. I think we have to make sure that when we write our contracts with, the companies doing these infrastructure projects, that we're very clear about what the goals are, how those will be measured, and what will happen if they don't meet those measurements.
Thank you, Mr. Suzanis. Mr. Jennings.
yeah, so I think one thing we should all keep in mind is that most of our infrastructure was installed before any of us were born, I believe, in this room. So I think lately I cannot recall errors that have been made, but if they have, I know one thing, Mike Green, our city manager, has always been on top of those things, making sure that the contractor comes back if there's an error. I put a lot of trust in him, so I know he's done that. But we're human, things happen, but I think we can always work to replace those things, repair those things. It might be costly sometimes, but I think we're just trying to get to a new spot with our infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Mr. Cantor.
Can you reread the question, please?
Sir. We face failing infrastructure, particularly drainage. Past projects have not been well completed and are failing. How will you address failing infrastructure and ensure contractors perform as expected?
Okay, well, I'll address the drainage, and I'll just state it flatly. We're never going to fix the drainage. I mean, the city is designed poorly. It was designed 100 years ago. They don't build cities with ditches anymore. They don't build cities where the sidewalk is the lowest point between the road and the house. So the only thing we're going to be able to do is try to make fixes to, something that just is not an efficient system. As far as infrastructure projects go, I don't know of any big failures. I know there's, with any infrastructure project, there are going to be mistakes that are going to be made. There are going to be things that need to be fixed after the project is done, under warranty. A lot of people have contacted me about issues like that, and they've been fixed. The only major thing I can think of is that there was an issue with the concrete mix that was used in this region, and it was used on a lot of people's driveway approaches, and we replaced all that, even after it was out of warranty at the vendor's cost. So, yeah, I think the infrastructure projects have been pretty successful.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor. Finally, Ms. Mathis.
Yes, but our infrastructure, of course, there's always accountability. So those that we have our contracts with, we want to make sure that, of course, the contract is written in, that we can actually find out what will happen if there's any issues, if they're not corrected, what's the next step. So again, it's accountability for any type of issue regarding with the infrastructure. It's who's working on the infrastructure itself, the companies. It's back to the companies.
Thank you, Ms. Mathis. And our last question now will begin with Mr. Jennings. How do you plan to include residents in the planning and zoning decisions that directly affect them?
That's such a hard question. But mainly what I could say is encouraging them to come to our meetings. You know, we are representation. We can't necessarily put on a town hall every time we have to make a decision. So that's why I consider it such a hard question. But I feel like as long as we're using the tools that we have for communication, making sure those tools grow, maybe utilizing the Southfield Sun, but just making sure that the residents are aware. That's probably the best I could do at this point. You know, at this moment, I hope that residents will get involved, but that's what we have to offer.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Mr. Cantor.
The best way that they can be included in planning and zoning is to get into this room for the master plan. The master plan informs our zoning. The city council and the planning commission has to follow our zoning laws once they're established. They're established from the master plan. So, for example, with the development of the Annie Lathrup School, there were a lot of people that were upset about certain things, but the planning commission didn't have much choice because that was the zoning that's in effect based upon the current master plan. And if the current master plan of having a walkable downtown doesn't fit our community anymore, we need to hear from the residents, and the only way we're going to hear from the residents is if they get in this room and provide their feedback. That's the only way we can change the master plan and update it. Outside of that, the only other thing that residents can do is come to our meetings, because occasionally we'll have zoning variances that we'll vote on, and they always require a public hearing, so your input is always requested and taken into consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor. Ms. Mathis.
Community engagement is always important, to hear your voice, exactly how do you feel that will affect you, knowing exactly when the timelines. So there's going to be actually work that's going to be done. You know exactly when it will start, how long it's going to take, but getting your input and hearing what do you have to say and what would you like as far, even Bruce said, the master plan. They just had a meeting this past Monday, so just keeping your ears and eyes open for the next meeting and attending. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Mathis. And finally, Mr. Suzanis.
Well, I agree with Jalen that you can't have a meeting about every single decision that's made, but you can keep the community well informed and build into the process earlier communication. Not this is about to be voted on and you can show up and make a comment, but these are things we're considering. So I agree 100%, as I've said before, the master plan is really our opportunity to get in there and have our voice be heard. The one thing I would like to say, though, is I believe that community involvement, while it does ultimately sit with the residents to come, I believe it's the city government's responsibility to do everything they can to encourage that and garner resident support. And I think, again, we've seen that it can be done. It just needs to be done as part of the routine process, and we have to figure out what that process is.
Thank you, Mr. Suzanis. That concludes our time for questions. Candidates now have 1 minute to make a closing statement in reverse order of the opening statements. So we'll begin now with Mr. Suzanis.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's a nice segue for me. So I believe that good process makes good government. And I think that we need to review the processes that we have for making decisions. If they're good ones, we have to make sure that we actually use them and that we use them consistently. If they're bad ones, we have to look at can we fix them or get rid of them or replace them. And if there's a gap in how we're doing things as a city government, if there's places where people are dissatisfied, then we have to look at building new processes to address those things. I think rules around bidding are actually written pretty well. They might need some tweaking, but they should be adhered to strictly. You know, we should have bids on every major project, and even the minor ones, unless there's a really good reason not to. There are processes for granting variances, but they seem ad hoc to me, so that's a place where we could maybe tweak it or change it. And then I think, like I said before, we need new processes for communicating with the community, and I think we can build those.
Thank you, Mr. Suzanis. Ms. Mathis.
Tonight, I would like to thank everyone who came out to this evening, but I would like to say that you've heard a lot of different ideas tonight, but I want to say that mine is transparent, accountable, and being accessible. So making sure that as far as the listening, acting responsibly, listen to what the residents have to say, giving your input into that is very important. We're looking, of course, as being fiscal responsible and making sure that your needs are heard and your needs are met so that we can build a stronger foundation for Lathrup Village.
Thank you, Ms. Mathis. Mr. Cantor.
Yeah, I want to again thank the League of Women Voters and my fellow candidates. It's been a pleasure to serve the residents of Lathrup Village for the past 8 years. And I think my accomplishments like paving 8.3 miles of roads, significantly updating our outdated water and sewer systems, helping to secure $7.4 million in grants, and significantly more code enforcement and so on, all speak for themselves. If I'm reelected, my priorities will include continuing to closely monitor city financials to ensure that every tax dollar is spent wisely, seeking resident input into the decision-making process by regularly going door to door, holding regular office hours, conducting town halls, and being a consistent presence at all city meetings and events. Also continue working to improve the business corridor via code enforcement, ordinance updates, and using industry relationships to attract high-quality businesses. And finally, to continue to improve our infrastructure and parks through grants like the new $1.1 million water main grant that was awarded to us last week. So I hope you'll vote for me on November 4th, and I want to thank you all for coming out tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor. And finally, Mr. Jennings.
Well, it's been a pleasure over these past 4 years, trying my best to provide you all with 5-star representation. That is what I am standing on. To reinforce, I've built an amazing relationship with the school board. We've seen a lot of growth in that relationship. I've helped create major events in the city, and I might also forgot to add that Michigan First also provided Southfield Public Schools with a donation as a result of the Festival of Lights that was created by me. Additionally, I have supported ordinances such as the solar power ordinance, which protects residents from predatory solar companies. Also, I have made sure that, there's 15 seconds, made sure that small box discount stores will be regulated if they decide to try and come to the city of Lathrup Village. So I'm always looking towards the future.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. The League of Women Voters would like to thank the audience, the candidates, and LVTV for making this forum possible. Broadcast of this forum will be on the League of Women Voters Oakland area website, lwvoa.org, and also on Comcast, WOW, AT&T, and on YouTube. It will be on YouTube late Saturday evening or early Sunday morning. The League of Women Voters is funded by contributions from concerned businesses and citizens. Our membership is open to women and men over the age of 16. This presentation is copyrighted 2025 by the League of Women Voters and can only be shown in its entirety. All rights are reserved. And remember, early voting starts October 25th, or you can vote at your precinct on November 4th. And remember, democracy is not a spectator sport. Thank you, everyone. Good day.